Um, I hope everyone had a good weekend. Oh yes, hello, some familiar faces. Camaro fan and Ram fanning, and today Scott Zach 365. Today we're talking to Grant Langston, who is a buddy of mine from, of course, like the dirt world of all capacity. Hey everyone, Harley Richard and Uncle Salty and Sergio and what's up? I don't know if he's going to join. This happens far too often where we don't actually know. I'm going to see if he is. There he is. Um, and we'll see if this works. It works.
Hello.
I won't. We won't talk about how we got to this point and making sure that it works, but it did work.
Well, my phone needed an update and somehow got locked out of my, I think it's the iCloud. I don't know if it's the iTunes, the iCloud, but when you're on one of these family links, I was getting all my kids' messages and everything was getting all cross-rutted. So we tried a clean slate and you're left with, I don't know,
It
technology.
it's not, yeah, technology, but it's also like probably not even like the fact that where you are with the kids stuff. It's also the fact that like everybody in the world is trying to use Wi-Fi in some capacity now.
True, true. I can
Like
imagine.
how our Wi-Fi hasn't crashed entirely yet, I'm not sure.
Well, that shows that in America we do have great Wi-Fi because I know, like where I grew up in South Africa, you try have a live chat like this, it is like you're sitting like this the whole
Wait,
time.
really?
Yeah, it's hit and miss, and it cuts out, and not to mention they also have power outages at times. You just hope for the best.
Okay, wait. Okay, first and foremost, cheers. Do you have a drink?
Cheers.
Cheers. Last time you and I had a drink together, I mentioned to you earlier, I'm not going to tell the story, but you and I had a wild adventure, a couple of others, in an American Airlines lounge at an airport.
Well, what do you do when you got time on your hands?
Well, in that case, I know exactly what we all did at that time.
Sure, absolutely.
More than just eat the free hummus and pita that they have at American Airlines lounge. That's for sure.
That didn't touch sides. That was part of the problem. That was our meal consumption.
That's exactly what it was. Well, thanks. Before usually I get started with most of these, I always just want to thank those who are kind of out and about and helping out our world. Where you and I are not doing that right now, per se.
Yeah.
You and I are in the comfort of our own home, but of course, there's a ton of other people out there who are on the front lines who are really making this world turn right now. So a big thanks to them. Do you have anything to say to them?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I know people that, first responders, whether it's nurses, doctors, firefighters, policemen. In fact, I mentioned to you, with our dealership, we've stayed open, and some people didn't get it. I go, well, we service the police bikes or motorcycles for the two local cities that we're around, Marina Valley, Paris. We service motorcycles that doctors, firefighters, nurses use to commute to work and back. So even for me, it was a nice sort of reminding that how motorcycling and and people that are helping us actually have a bit of a tie-in.
Totally.
And it was cool to see, and it was nice that we were able to expedite these people that needed service or parts of that. We did whatever we could. And then from a personal standpoint, I know myself and my family, we donated. We didn't have much time, but we donated money to a variety of feeding the hungry and people that are struggling to find a meal right now. It's sad to think that in a first world country we're still dealing with that, and how at the moment they're saying 1 in 4 people or even maybe even more than that at this moment are
Yeah.
struggling for their next meal. So it was very crazy and humbling because it made me look up how many people actually die of starvation compared to.
What was the number that you found?
It's about 9 million a year is what they estimate. I mean, it's staggering. So when we talk about COVID-19 and things like that, you really go, wow, like that's something that we're all trying to fix at the moment. But there's another problem that we don't want to forget about. So
Isn't that so interesting? First and foremost, one of my best friends, Charlotte, just popped in, and of course, Jones boys right there said keep pounding GL. Um, but isn't that so amazing how there's so many pros and cons to this time in our life, and most importantly, the fact that you're right, this is kind of unveiling some other kinds of whether it be issues or anything that like more opportunities to solve more problems in our world.
Absolutely. There's always things going on. It's just we get caught up, as we always say, in our
Yes.
own little bubble, our own little world, and it's easy to forget what's going on around. I have to remind myself if I'm grouchy for some reason, I have to take a step back, and go, you know what? I actually got it pretty damn good. I'm just going to shut my mouth because it's so easy for us to, just the old cliche saying, take things for granted. But one thing that this whole debacle has done is I think it's changed the way we're going to be as a society moving forward. Just I know my cooking skills have improved, and
I want to know, what are you cooking these days? What you got going?
Well, I mean, between cookbooks that have been collecting dust that we're actually going through now, that's one option. Obviously, with online, there's a lot of avenues to go and find recipes. And then we even try to do some of those, order the fresh meals and cook yourself. So making the most of it. And then, we also did things like bust out old games, pretty much almost remodel rooms for the kids and clean the garage and just random stuff that I never thought I'd look forward to doing, that at the moment I'm like, man, we've done a lot of cool random things in the last 6 weeks.
And you wouldn't have to do that if you were on the road or you were working at the shop.
I wouldn't have done a fraction of it. I mean, I would have done the bare minimal probably, truthfully, but it at least enabled us. And just spending time with the family. I'm fortunate behind my house, we have some open land. So as much as, we try to do our part to stay away from some people, I can't stay indoors all the time. I go nuts. So besides riding out in the hills with a couple buddies, we've gone out the back with the kids to take the dogs on hikes and walks, and we have mountain bikes, so things like that. So we've really, I know for some people maybe they're getting tired of their family or vice versa. I at least feel like for us it's been a chance to kind of stop and smell the roses.
Yeah, I was talking to Rutledge Wood, and sorry if this is vibrating. I don't know if you guys can hear me clearly. It's definitely popping back at me. But
sounds fine to me.
Okay, good. Hi, Harriet. I don't know. Please, hello. Thanks for joining us, Harriet, as well. But I was talking to Rut, and he was saying how at the very beginning of this, like the whites of people's eyes that he had talked to were brighter, the under eyes weren't so dark, and like that idea that is some of the positive, movement in this process. You getting a chance to spend time with your family, the kids getting a chance to give back. But one of the things I find interesting is those in motorsport, it's like a particular breed of you guys. And I say you guys because male, female, doesn't matter. The point is like motorsport-minded people, this time is so difficult for them. In a way of like sitting still, being home, being present, like totally different.
Absolutely. I think the one thing that helped me to an extent was because with the shop, with the dealership, when the whole COVID-19 thing went down, and then in California, the governor came out and said, non-essential business shut down type thing. It was weird because the very next day, all the phones were ringing, whether it was my phone, the manager's phones, and everyone calling. I wanted to come pick up my parts. You got my unit in for service. When am I going to get this back? And it was crazy, and it got really busy. But with people that elected to stay home, and I respect some people took it maybe more seriously or got a little freaked out, and some people said, "Hey, it's another form of flu, whatever."
Right.
We saw it, and as a business owner, you got to respect everyone's feeling and opinion. So some people just didn't want to come to work. Maybe it was because they had a newborn at home and they didn't want to risk it, or their wife didn't want them coming, or vice versa. There was just about at least half of our employees that didn't want to come to work by choice. So the reason I bring that up is I ended up being there, and I was uncrating bikes, stacking shelves, unpacking boxes, running stuff to UPS, picking stuff up from FedEx, lending a hand.
They say a leader is capable of doing all of the different tasks with humility, and then having the trust of their employees that's going to get the job done well. So
sure.
I guess that's the truest form of leadership right there.
Well, I got to still learn how to actually ring up someone on our computer system because I don't even have a login for that. But I can do the basics, and I never have a problem doing some of the, less desirable work, like the repacking, the restocking, the returns, little things. But it also helps me understand the business. I think it also helps build camaraderie with the people that are there. And we got quite a lot done with a skeleton staff. But that was my way of not going stir crazy, because I was almost too busy. Because we did cut our hours in our days, but I was there almost, if not 5 out of 5 days, I was there 4 out of 5 days. And it was pretty much almost open to close. So the days were flying by, but it was starting to like kind of wear me out a little bit. But it seems like things are starting to go a little bit back to normal. As of the 1st, we're heading back to normal. A lot of people came back to work. So it's a nice sign to see that progression now.
Isn't it unbelievable? Yeah, how people, guys, I'm really sorry if I don't know what's going on. My little sound here is a little wonky. But yeah, it's adapting and being able to kind of like work through this and what this is all. One of my first was a conversation with Alex Rossi, and he talked about how his purpose felt like it was kind of taken away, and how like in our world now in TV, it's like when your phone doesn't ring, and what that conversation with yourself about what happens now and how do you redirect that.
Yeah, real quick, I see Emma said, "Kiss sweet Lucas for me, Grant." Oh, we do. If I open my door, he'll come running in here in a minute. He's probably jonesing because he's locked outside. I'll see. I think we're trying to keep him away. But I forget, what was your last question again?
Oh, just like the ability to adapt. Like, just like our world has come to, like you guys in the store adapting, our industry's adapting. How motocross is going to be different now or in the future, how that's going to change events and live events. I think it's really fascinating for sure.
I hope it doesn't change it, as in people don't return to stadiums as often or as in the droves as they do. And I don't know if that's going to happen, because maybe temporarily. I think the one thing I've learned with most people is their memories are a little bit short. So maybe in the near future, people are going to be hesitant to get on a plane or go to a stadium or concert if they have them in the near future or when that opens up. But I think in a year, maybe 2 years, and I hope that this will sort of be water under the bridge, but I still think things will be different from this. I think some jobs are realizing, hey, if we install these sort of software systems, we can have a lot of people remotely from home. That might help traffic. That might help pollution. I think there could be a lot of random things that come out of this that maybe we never thought of and go, wow, there was a silver lining to that dark cloud.
Exactly. And how do we not see it before it? Why do we have to go through the process to get there? But of course,
that's life. I swear, I think if everything in life goes smoothly, we don't do anything. But when we hit a big bump in the road, all of a sudden we go, whoa.
And you've hit some bumps along the road. Okay. So, and same here. But in your career, this is a good segue into just your career in general, right? Like when someone hits a bump in the road career-wise, when we're talking riding, not TV, as an athlete, how did you get out of those ruts, literally?
Well, in a weird way, this COVID-19 kind of resonates a little bit with a rider or an athlete. I think, like when you get injured, right now everyone's world has stopped, but when you're injured, your world stops.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
So it almost had a little bit of a similar feeling. But what I hate is the unknown. I like to know, like in 2 weeks, I'll be at physical therapy. In 4 weeks, I'll be walking, jogging, cycling, whatever, and have that roadmap. Right now, when you feel like things are getting better, well, maybe we've got to wait, or we got some bad news, or, you go, dang it, like, just let's move forward.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I think this time is so difficult for athletes like you and other who are like-minded, because it's like kind of a second off season in a sense, but without the direction as to when and how and where.
Well, I think the short term, there's also some implications, which is just that it's going to affect, you brought up Rossi earlier, whether it's IndyCar, NASCAR, motocross, F1, MotoGP, all forms, IMSA, there's going to be some sort of an effect right now because it's affected the industry, and with no racing, some contracts, there's some gray area, or even not even gray, it's black and white, that says if your team's not out there, we don't owe you a penny for that period. Now,
So for a lot of people, that's just lost revenue. So now you got this whole other aspect, and I think we're seeing it a little bit in our sport is, and I don't know, but I'm hearing through the grapevine that that the motocross series might be cut a little bit shorter for
That's
a couple.
I was going to see if you had an inside scoop on that.
And I think it sounds like a couple of reasons. One is time is getting pushed further into the year, and it's going to start conflicting with that preseason in 2021.
Yep.
And the other reason is I think with some teams in that they realize with loss of revenue, cutting back the races will help them out on a financial basis. So there's all these little different micro issues going on that everyone's fighting a different battle. Some people don't even have a job. So, I mean, it's that bad. And that's a lot of people. Or furloughed. I mean, I know that's a nice way of just putting that basically you're temporarily out of work. But for those people at the moment, they're still out of work. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so there's certainly a certain amount of uncertainty. I think for race teams, it's a matter of, I think some teams are in different situations. Some are more financially stronger than others, of course. I think in our sport, the factory teams have the funding to get through it. But it's those bigger satellite teams that the sport relies on that I think are the ones that are going to be hardest hit and are going to really struggle not only to get through 2020, but are they going to be able to come back and have a strong setup for 21?
Yeah, no doubt. And Whitney even says, "Will tracks make money if they can have spectators?" Which then, and we know this.
They can't make money. Exactly. I mean, there's no way.
And I think back to GRC days, Global Rallycross days, and how what it took to build tracks and have the spectators there, and the importance of that with the financial backing, how that will change with what's going on too. I don't know. It is a lot of unknowns for a lot of people involved at this point.
Yeah. And, when you look at sports like motocross, I think it's also where it's different from IndyCar and something like that. And motocross, a lot of the revenue in that is driven because people can go out and buy a dirt bike and their gear and go to the track and bet. They're more of a participant, whereas sports like IndyCar, NASCAR, it's purely spectator and TV and sponsorship dollars driven. So if you have no live events or no events with the sports, they really get hammered hard. So
interesting. It's so dynamic. So you think from the motocross side, you guys might get pushed back a little bit, of course, shorten the season, make that a little bit.
It has been pushed back. It was originally scheduled to start on May 16th. Then it was pushed to June 13th. Okay. And now the latest update has been that round 1 is scheduled for July 4th weekend.
So then it would just be, is it going to be then, would it be, those events aren't going to be rescheduled? Those first front headers would be?
Well, as of now, they're saying that only one event has officially been canceled. That was the opening round in Hangtown, Northern California. They are anticipating to have all 11 rounds that remain. I hope they do. I think that's very optimistic, to be honest.
I think so too.
I think there's track promoters that will not hold an event if there's no spectators. They can't afford it.
Yeah,
and
made a point to say, it's good.
And some states at the moment won't allow mass gatherings, which means no spectators, which means promoters will pull out, I think. So I still think there's going to be a lot of jostling happening and a lot of chopping and changing in the next month or two between states reopening, venues coming back on schedule, and some sort of a timeline. But at the moment, I think everyone's a little.
I'd be curious. Jimmy Vassar's popping in here too. I'd be curious to know his take on what he thinks too about all that from a totally different perspective. I don't know. I find it will be really fascinating. Okay, but can you tell me really quickly what's behind you? What room are we in? And what is all this? What do you have?
I came to my office. I can't really do this too good. It's a few of my. Oh, I'm terrible.
You're doing so great. It's so good. What is all that?
So just, I'm not really good at doing this backwards thing, but
I know
that's some trophies from Texas National, Hangtown. The bears are from Mammoth.
Okay. All right.
Mammoth
Mountain.
Those got put there by the kids, I think. That's the East Coast Championship. Daytona podium. Just some random trophies.
Is there anything in there that you would grab if you had a house fire? Not to push that on you at all. But is there anything that's a prized possession in there that you'd be like, snag it? It goes
Well, we
along
had a
with the
flood. We had a flood, so I'll show you what I do have here. So this is the other side. So these are championship helmets.
Right on. Yeah. How could you grab all of those?
What's that?
How could you grab it all?
I wouldn't grab them all, but that was when I won my world championship. So that's my helmet. 03 motocross, and then 05, 06 supercross. Yep. And then motocross again. And
did you design most of yours at that point, or what was the inspiration?
Well, in the front, the nickname of the Zulu Warrior identifies that guy. I know we don't look alike, but
yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm sure when you wake up in the morning or whatever, it's gotta be some image somewhere.
So that had the Red Bull front, but then as you can see when we went further along, we had to follow the more monster corporate. Yeah. So the helmets changed, and then this is actually my first Supercross win. No way.
Wait. Can you pull the camera back just a hair?
No, I lied. I'm fake news.
Never mind. Fake out.
That was like a second or third one, but it fell apart. This is the first one. I don't know if you can. Oh wait, it is hammered.
It's lived a good life. What happened to that?
It's champagne. That's what happened to this one. The champagne ended up corroding.
Something.
Doesn't look attractive. So I've got a base.
It has some life.
And a few pieces to put together.
Someone had just said your favorite win or championship. Is there anything that totally stands out to you?
It's always tough. I would say. Oh, you asked what I'd grab, because I was saying earlier, my house, we had a burst, so I haven't put everything back since we redid it. But these are the champ. I am terrible at this, but
no, you're doing great. It's much better than I could do.
So these are, the framed plaques and medals from the different.
Those are rad.
Different championships. So because these are all in a pile right now, I'd probably grab these guys because it'd be the easiest way to have some of those memories.
Yeah, without having to grab an entire bulk of helmets, I suppose. That makes more sense.
And then that's a gold medal from the FA.
That is super cool. Is that a colored ribbon? Is that?
Yes, it is.
What an office you got going. That's super cool.
Oh, and then that helmet's dipped in 24 karat gold.
Everyone needs that.
Of course.
What's it from?
It's from my 2003 outdoor championship, but my sponsor, Tony from M2R, he had this thing. He's like, he was Australian, so he's like, GL, if we win this championship, you want to get a gold-plated helmet. So I was like, all right. Well, I mean, everyone needs that, right? So I wasn't going to argue with the guy.
Oh, that's so good. But see, like, that's one of the things about the industry. I think across the board, how many of those people do you still maintain contact with? How many of those people would you go and give, well, not today you want to give hugs to, but, handshakes or elbow bumps or whatever. Like, the idea that motorsports totally brings people together, regardless if it's winning or losing or just, like, the experience altogether.
Hi, Wes Kane. Hi, Skull. Rob. Yeah, well, when in our sport, especially, I feel like when you've won championships or you spent years with teams and individuals, it's a little bit different from working with people or colleagues to, there's a certain bond or when you work with people and you win championships or do certain special things, it's always different. I don't know how to explain it, but I think partly because that with those people's help, you typically always respect those people. You've worked with them. You've had a great time. Yeah. You never really forget about them. I still keep in touch with virtually everyone that I would say was close, even from the early days in South Africa.
Wow. Isn't that insane? I do find it interesting. I oftentimes compare it to a circus, and I feel like
It is.
in our traveling circus, regardless if you're on the TV side or the driver or the team side, or media or whatever, like there's a bond that happens. Hey, Duster Freak in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There is a bond that happens between everybody in that world. Like you and I, right? Like you and I have something special just on the basis that you and I have kind of gone through a circus together, from off-road into some Red Bull stuff, into some, I picked your brain about how things work. And that's different than even those with the team. But I find there to be a special breed of people within the motorsport community that it totally brings people together. And I can't figure out why.
Yeah, I wish I had that answer too, because I've only ever known the motorsport industry, and I've always had a massive passion for racing. I saw Jimmy Vasser on earlier, and I'm like, oh, I watched that guy race. You know, like that's cool. And so I've always been a motorsports junkie. So I've known motor racing. I've never gotten a chance to get, I guess, involved or close in other sports or real industries, I guess, per se. And so I guess sometimes I feel like in that aspect, I feel like I'm a little bit under a rock. I know our motorsport industry. I love it. I've never, as I get older, I think you slowly kind of back out a little bit or become less relevant, whatever you want to call it. But I enjoy the life it's brought me, the opportunities, the people I've got to meet over the years, and to still be involved, whether it's from the Red Bull side or the NBC outdoor side or Lucas Oil stuff, and then just everything else. I get a ride, if I feel like it. We have a business, and that's also a nice thing for me, was being a little bit diversified. I think this whole situation just made me change focus a little bit. Like sometimes when you're like this, I got live TV coming up, we're going that route. Okay, that's not happening. I'll just
redirect.
And like I said, it was just coincidental that we had such a skeleton staff. It was like, oh boy. People are like, oh, what do you do at work? And I'm like, uh-huh. I even went and grabbed lunch for people. I was feeding our staff most of the days. We're either making them food from home, or I was doing Del Taco, what do they call it? The party pack, a couple of those, or KFC, or whatever decent food on a budget.
Nothing but the best there, Gail. Nothing but the best. Actually, I don't know that I ever told you. I think one time I was in San Diego-ish area. We're going, I don't know if it was going to Ocotillo Wells or out to Temecula at one point. And I think it was your, did I tell you? I think it was your guys' shop that we went to get like supplies and stuff. And I had no idea like the connection at all.
You did tell me.
I think that was, I always have felt then close to your shop on the basis, I think, that I've made up the fact that it was your shop that we went to. But I'm pretty sure it was. Well,
they're not a lot in that area, so there's a good chance it was.
I feel like that, I always felt very close to you in that way. Going back to, is there a championship or win just with someone having asked? Is there anything that really sticks out to you as the most memorable experience?
It is. It's definitely a difficult question. I would say there's two that come to mind. It's hard to narrow it down, but I would probably say if I had to really split hairs, I think my my very first one was the special one. That was when I was in 2000, because when me, my dad, and then my uncle came over as my mechanic down the road. I was a nobody. We had no money. We went to Europe. I mean, it was, when I say tough, I was homesick. I remember crying myself to sleep a couple nights, and almost regretting, dropping out of school and sacrificing everything and having my dad take me overseas to try and pursue a dream. And then I thought, man, I'm not as good as I thought I was. So it was a steep learning curve. It was a tough transition. When we moved to Belgium, I was 15. So like I said, it was definitely sink or swim. And I'm glad my dad didn't let me give up when I wanted to. Like, that was the one time I'm glad the tough love came through, because we pushed through, and then it got better and better. And I went from not qualifying to being top 15 to top 10 to a podium guy. And then when I won the world championship, I won it quite convincingly. But it seemed surreal because it happened so quickly. And about 18 months prior to winning the world championship, I was ready to quit. I really didn't think I had what it took to be the best. So I think that one, because it was just a lot of emotion and it was a lot of heartache and it was a lot of doubt. Once I
Absolutely.
won that one,
Overcoming that doubt as an athlete, and you well know this, and then from that idea of what that really takes to have the confidence to get back out there time and time again, like that is really truly the statement that you're making.
yeah. And so I think the first one would probably be the most special. The last one was also special because after that I had my iron cancer. So the 450 US Motocross Championship, that's to me the pinnacle of motocross. The big one. Obviously, there's motocross and supercross, but I'm saying for motocross, that's the one that I think everyone wants to win. It's the top tier.
Yeah.
But the first one was the one that I think was the hardest, if it makes sense, to get to that point. After I won that first championship, I think the self-belief was there. And then it was a matter of, going through, your career and then trying to be, I think for me, a lot of times was trying to, one, figure out supercross in the beginning. And then two was staying injury-free was a bit of a tough one for me.
Well, and then I just add the whole idea that there is, and I say this in the lightest way possible, so many athletes are invincible in their mindset, which is also what makes them so incredibly talented. That athletes there are these people who they're invincible, right? And again, like with that skill set, that's what makes them world champs, and it makes them the ability to conquer and have that determination. Out of curiosity, like when you went through like the eye cancer, that whole hard chapter of your life, how much of that was a humbling experience versus that of a complete growth and learning? I mean, what kind of walk me through what that was like going from a world champion to that?
That was definitely a hard one to swallow. I felt like I was at the pinnacle of my career, and then for something like that to come along, I don't think I really accepted things in the beginning, or I didn't want to, and I think it was a little bit of denial, and I'm like, I'm healthy. I don't have. Why would I have cancer? I'm as healthy as you get. Every physical I ever had, they always said you're an incredibly healthy and fit young man. I'm like, sweet, that's what I love to hear. So for something like that, it would caught me off guard, and I think it was really hard for me mentally to take, because when you prepare, I think, for retirement, it gives you a chance to sort of unwind. This was like someone pulled the rug underneath me. So at the same time, the recession happened, and a few other things.
All of it looked like it rained for it.
Yeah, so I went from just feeling like on top of the world. I'd won the outdoor championship that I mentioned, and then what's now the Monster Cup, used to be called US Open. I won that. So coming into Anaheim, I was like, this is my year. This is I'm feeling great. I was happy with Yamaha and the bike and everything. And then all of a sudden, I just started losing vision, and one thing led to another. And I wasn't prepared for that, not at all. And, I ended up losing all my rides, my sponsors and everything. And I remember waking up one day, and I think what really hit me was I kind of like had that conversation with myself. I was like, if I got out of bed today, does it make any difference? And when I was like, I don't think so, it was just a really crappy feeling. Yeah. And when you talk about humbling, it was. I think I was lost. I think I was angry at just situations. I know family and friends said I was a little hard to be around at times. So I definitely went through a tough time mentally. I think it took a while to just accept, one, that my racing career was over, and two, it was time to find a chapter that you enjoy, because I never thought I'd be on TV at that point in time. It was never on my list. Yeah, it was never on my list. So I am a firm believer everything happens for a reason. Yeah. But there was probably about a year that was extremely tough. In fact, I also ended up getting divorced at that time, and so I think everything just felt like it all hit me at once. But when you do that, there's only one way to go. And I look back now, and I'm like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I just didn't handle it properly.
Interesting. So there is a learning lesson from that from even this time. I'm sorry for those who are joining us if my audio is off. I just can't do anything about it at this point. But that idea that you can now take a moment like this in this COVID time and reevaluate what that is. And I find it so fascinating, these life experiences that I've been through myself, have been through. And it does take a few years, and you're like, maybe I didn't handle it the right way in the moment, but then you look back and you're like, that's why it happened. And I'm now able to hear help other people along the way. You're able to help your kids along the way. You're able to mentor other riders, give them insights. You know,
it's been funny in a way I wouldn't have really expected it. I think I've had a fair amount of riders over the years come and talk to me, maybe just feeling comfortable that they could talk to me about private stuff, you know, like struggles or financial issues potentially, or family issues. And I've always told friends and competitors, I'm a pretty good listener. So, yeah, I've always told people, feel free to come and vent or open up. You know,
I felt comfortable with that too. I mean, I've asked you to talk to you about it as well.
And yeah, and I think some people, maybe they just have that ability where people go, yeah, you know, I think I could talk to him. So it's great. I mean, I would never.
Is it the accent?
I have no idea. Because to me, when I hear my own voice, it sounds annoying. So it's hard for me to believe that people think it sounds cool, but I'll take that. But yeah, when you go through stuff, it's definitely easier to talk to people and help them when you feel that point where they're looking for answers, and you know, if they talk to their mom or dad or maybe their husband or wife or something, they may not get the answer that they think. You know, it's more like oh honey, you'll be fine, we'll be great, we'll get through this. Sometimes they want something else, like shoot it to me straight, you know. But if I can share that advice, I'd love to, because I know one thing that I've been bad at is not asking for help or advice. I like to just shut down like a hermit crab and disappear.
That seems to be a natural fulfillment of this, right? And yeah, my audio is not really working, but Grant's really the important one. As it relates to like what you still want to accomplish, is there anything? I mean, I know right now with outdoors, we don't know, and TV, we don't know. But what else to accomplish? Is there anything else in the motorsport world? Competition at all?
You know, I don't want to sound like negative, but I think once racing is kind of over, there's no like real goal or pinnacle, or I sort of feel like right now the TV window is open. It won't be open forever, and nor do I plan to travel forever. But one of the things I've enjoyed is getting more and more involved in the family business. My parents want to step back, so I think that's going to consume a lot of my time in the couple of years from now. You know, maybe for my goal would maybe be just to run that, hopefully plump it up, sell it, and then retire. And then I just want to go maybe riding around the country or the world with friends. I don't want to travel too much, but I'd like to do. I've really enjoyed the dual sport riding and just getting out. And when I have time, you know, when I'm done with TV and the shop and that, then I'd love to come to the Indianapolis 500 and come and watch that and hang out. That's a bucket list dream of mine. So things like that, you know, I want to go and watch the Goodwood Festival of Speed in the UK. I have family over there. I'd love to go to the Isle of Man. That's been a bucket list. So I don't know. I probably sound like a bit of a snob, but I want to be semi-retired here soon and then just have fun.
Yeah. What about the kids? I mean, have they expressed any motorsport-wise, car-wise, or vehicle motor-wise?
Yeah, well, so my ex-wife is engaged to Eric Curran, who races IMSA, and so I think because of his car background, he sells cars. My son is around the two-wheel and the four-wheel, so he loves it. But he's been more into soccer. That's been his thing. He picked it up kind of young, and he's stuck with it. And I'm quite happy. I played a bit of soccer when I was a kid.
Did you?
Yeah, I think I've always been a bit of an athlete. Well, not right now, but I was always an athlete growing up. So I kind of felt like even the stick and ball sports, I was always better than most, I think, because of sort of just being a bit of an athlete and being in shape. I was always in shape growing up. So he's into soccer, and Devin, I say there's some people that, like myself, that can go and watch a race and go, I want to be that guy. I want to be on the podium. I want to win. That's me. my son Devin, he's more like, I want to go to the race and watch you be on the podium. Like, he's more of a spectator. He loves being a fan, if it makes sense. So he watches just about everything that has an engine involved.
So
And then my daughter is probably a bit of a tomboy because of me, but then between my girlfriend and her mom and that, she's got the girly side.
yeah,
Yeah, she's a bit of both, but I would definitely say a little more on the tomboy side. She likes like mountain biking, riding dirt bikes. Like, all the kids ride bikes and we have fun. But like I said to them, if we're gonna race, we're not doing it like la 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 fun. We're either in or we're not. Do you want to do it? And they were like, nope. We just enjoy the social riding around, having fun. But my daughter's really into volleyball. She's pretty good. She wants to go and get a scholarship to college and all that.
Okay, so I'm going to show you. So, speaking of volleyball, the other day, I was tossing around volleyball. Apparently, it has been a while since I played volleyball. What is that?
That looks like some abuse you've been taking. Or something.
It was volleyball.
Is there something you want to share with us?
I don't know what I did, but I tried, like, volleying out, or, whatever. And apparently, I was much better than I am. Apparently, it turns out.
Well, she last year she broke both her arms on a trampoline, so she was really nervous about her arms healing, and her mom was not really happy with me because it happened 5 minutes after being in my house. So fortunately, she was fine and made a full recovery. Didn't need surgery, so she takes that pretty serious. So between the kids' sports, I feel like we do a fair bit, and but once again, because of the situation right now, there's been no sport, so it's like everyone's been at home, and but I share the custody, so it's 50-50. So we still get a little downtime.
Yeah, especially at this moment. As we forgetting COVID in terms of like how it's going to change the industry, what do you think about motorcycles and how they're kind of progressing and changing? Obviously, like with the Yamaha you sent me, you obviously had a love, of course, for bikes and what that represents to you. Where do you see that industry changing to? Whether competitively or just as an enthusiast?
I think probably the most obvious change that people are anticipating is going electric. Companies have already shown that they've got fully electric bikes, that they've committed to focusing on it. So the bike that I sent you is a Yamaha 252 stroke, and I grew up in a pretty cool era where we grew up on 2 strokes, but then it became 4 strokes. So through that, I think most of the guys that got to ride 90s and 2000s, they got to experience both sides. So it's pretty interesting. But
that's why rhythm has been super cool the last couple of years with the 2 strokes. Like that's why I'm bringing back the retro.
They are. It seems like there's definitely fads, and I think that there were more of these bikes in people's barns and garages and storage sheds than even we realized. Because also what I noticed at the shop was, even though we had a line at the parts counter, and most of the people were buying just your consumables, tires, tubes, brake pads, all that kind of stuff, because they were either working from home or furloughed or just had extra hours or time, and people were working on bikes. So there was a lot of these coming out of the woodwork again. So the 2-stroke vibe and the whole novelty of it has come back in recent years. And there's a few reasons. For some people that only rode 2 strokes or raced that era, they were almost anti 4 strokes. I was never anti anything. I remember the first time I rode a 4-stroke, I was like, how are we going to ride these pieces of crap? Like, they're terrible. They're just heavy. They made a weird noise. You had to use a different riding style.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, this is terrible. This is going to ruin the sport. Then, after years of riding 4-stroke, I got back on a 2-stroke going, how the hell do we use 4-stroke? This thing's so different. I feel like a beginner all over again. So, but it's been fun. I obviously don't keep in shape like I used to, and these modern day 450 4-strokes have so much power that they ride you, you don't ride them. So at least with a 252 stroke, it doesn't pull my arms out of their sockets, and I can do a few laps, and I love the sound, and it's just fun. So like for me, when I go to a track, I literally am just screwing around the whole time, just to burn some calories, clear the mind, and have a good time.
Yes. What about the electric side of things? You know, from getting on a bike, obviously knowing you like the speed, the power, the sound, the adrenaline of that. What do you think about the electric version of everything?
I think there's pros and cons. I think pros would be the guy that just wants to go ride out of his backyard in the hills or the trails. So I think obviously from where the world is moving to a more greener environment and less emissions and that, I think it's got definitely a segment there where it really will appeal to a lot of people, maybe the mountain bike guy or the guy that used to have a bike. Yeah. The electric bikes, I actually have gotten to ride one, and I was pleasantly surprised because I'm a bit of a traditionalist, so the thought of losing smoke burning, two-stroke, air polluting, screaming bikes, part of me is like, oh dang it, I'm gonna miss that. But the electric side, I think, opens another avenue for your recreational guys, because if it's not that loud and there's going to be more areas you can ride it, it entices people to go, shoot, man, we can go ride for a couple of hours and explore this fun area around where we live or whatever you're into. Because sometimes for people it's to go somewhere and back. Some people it's, just to go hit some jumps. For some people it's to go down a sand wash. Some people it's just to commute with friends around a town or a city. So I do think that you're gonna see shops like mine and other dealerships slowly change over the years, and it's gonna be a weird transformation at first, but I think it's gonna happen. The downside, I think, is just it's gonna kill the live racing. To me, no disrespect to like Formula E or anything like that, but if someone's like, hey, do you want to go watch it? Part of me is like, if I had nothing else to do, yeah, but do I really want to go? Not really. It's not.
Because for you, with the sound of the adrenaline smells,
yeah,
it is what it is.
I hate the whining sound. In fact, I went to Austin the first year when they had F1, when it was the old style cars. Yeah. Loved it. Went back, not even 2 years ago, with the family, with the hybrid cars. And we had a great trip. I loved everything about it, but I hated the cars. I hated it. It drove me nuts. I enjoyed watching the old legend cars coming around from the 60s and 70s and 80s.
Legend racing is cool.
They sound rad. So from that, I mean, could you imagine what the hell's going to happen to NHRA? I mean, is it really? Oh,
anybody has any insight about what is going to happen with NHRA?
But I'm just saying, someday down the road,
it's going to happen.
If we go fully electric, like I've even said, just put a boombox on the side that has recorded sounds, and everyone can change the sounds. So when they turn on the electric car, they can have these cool sounds. I don't know. We're going to do something.
Yeah, what's going to happen? I've never thought about that at all.
I think about it. It scares me.
It is a little. As people, before Instagram cuts us off, because they will, is there any advice that you were given maybe along the way? That maybe somebody who's interested in diving into motorist career, perhaps someone who wants to be a business owner, or somewhere else in between. What was maybe some of the best advice you were given, and or do you have for somebody else?
I think there's a few things you can look at. One that we noticed is traditional mechanics are around, but modern mechanics need to be very basically software and computer savvy, because even though the bikes are still running on gas, the ignitions, they're becoming more computerized and electronic.
Yeah.
So a lot of the older generation people are battling with the changes that are coming. So I was going to say, if you're in the industry or want to excel in anything, and I think a lot of kids are doing that, but don't get too far with the tech stuff behind the desk and not have the hands-on ability. You got to have a balance of understanding the tech side of it, or the technical side, as well as being able to get your hands dirty and do the grease. When you can do that, those people that follow through, they end up starting as some shop guy somewhere, and a lot of times they end up running a race team, owning a race team, directing a race team, something along those lines.
Yeah, it's good too. In our TV, it'd be like an MFA, right? Journalist who's able to produce and talk. That idea that you can do all of those much more value eventually is so much greater. And
the more diversified, basically.
Yeah.
The more you can do in an industry that you love, the more opportunity you have. I mean, I ran a race team for a year in 2012. It was a challenge. It was a startup. I'm really glad I did it because it taught me a lot, like how to manage and your time is everything and coordinating. But by the end of the year, it made me realize I didn't want to be a team manager because it was
which is something that you need to learn, right?
24/7, and I didn't feel like babysitting people on Sunday evenings. So for me, it was like, I'm glad I did it, but I wouldn't do it again. But it helped me understand all the moving parts of our industry just a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, wait, before we go, I have my audio still thinking. I'm seeing red. I know that my audio is a little wonky. Is there anything from COVID quarantine side that you have cooked that you're proud of that you want to share recipe-wise? I know you said you found some. What's been your most proudest quarantine meal?
Quarantine meal? Oh, you know what? Braiding is something that I think I've always shied away from because sometimes if I don't know what I'm doing, I just prefer not to even try it.
Braiding?
Yeah, like doing like no. Like I'm drawing a blank on what they call it. Pinko. Like when you put a crust. Like if you're going to do like a Parmesan or something. Yes, right. Yes. Yeah, what do they call it over here? You use pinko or pinko or I've always called it breading. It's like breaded chicken or whatever it may be.
Yeah, right. That's what it is.
So we did. I did some good breaded pork chops, and what did we do on the side? We did like this twice mash with garlic and cheese and butter, and then like sauteed veggies and all. But anyway, the pork chops, honestly, I gave myself a pat on the back. They were damn good.
Will you send us a recipe?
What's that?
Could you ever redo the recipe? Could you send it?
I'm sure I could.
Like pork chops and red jam.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I've always been a sucker for bacon. So, pork's right up the avenue.
Yeah, you can remember that I've never done one of those, and I would appreciate it.
I will. I'll the one thing that I remember that we were struggling to figure out was the exact amount of the different seasonings in the breading, because when you don't pay the extra fee, you don't get all the details on some of these things. I swear they give you just enough information, but not the full details.
It's true. Well, I do appreciate your time. I'm sorry about the audio, but whatever. They can hear you.
Cool.
And hopefully we can see each other soon.
I hope so. This quarantine's made it weird. Like I haven't physically seen too many people in a while.
Yeah. Like I was quarantined solo for a long time. I'll tell you how that is. There's a lot of clarity and stillness.
Hey, I got my quarantine haircut though.
Check you. Look at you.
The sack's coming in too, pretty hot.
It's good. It's good. You can't even tell. Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening.
Bye, Jill.
Cheers.